Welcome to the Love Body Woman Show, Emma. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
I'd love to know how you have gone from practicing as a psychologist of 20 years to being a yoga teacher, a numerologist, and a soul counsellor. So if you could share a bit about that, we would really love to hear it.
Yeah. So straight out of school, I decided I was going to be a psychologist. I originally wanted to be a vet.
Oh, okay.
And
Very
then,
different.
yes, very different. I did work experience at a vet, which thank God they had work experience back then, because I figured out I was allergic to some animals at the vet. I fainted at the sight of blood. And the vet life was not for me. It was awful. We had to try to revive puppies, and they like the cesarean. And our job, the other girl and I, was to rub them until they breathed, and they all died. And oh my God,
It would be hard.
well, I didn't know back then, but as a highly sensitive and an empath, it just was destroying basically. And so I thought, no, I don't think I'll be doing that. And through a series of events and things that happened to me, I was always interested in the workings of the mind. And so psychology was the obvious solution. But I knew pretty quickly that I was not going to be working in a mental institution straight out with people that are, completely, no. I just knew that I would burn out very, very quickly, and that life wasn't for me. So I went into what was called organisational and corporate counselling psychology.
Okay.
So that's when you work for a large organisation. It was one of the big four business consulting, accounting type firms. It's still around today. And they had a department that I was the only psychologist. And before that, I worked in a little boutique organisational psychology firm, so I learned how to do psychological assessments, how to counsel people, in the real world that were losing their jobs, and that type of work. Change management, which is helping organisations going through massive changes, and then worked in one of the big four companies. And I loved it. I just adored my work, helping people. It's basically helping people and understanding the brain and change and how people cope with change or not cope with change. But I knew that these people were not my people. So I worked with 250 accountants, basically. And even though, I loved them, they weren't me. I was so different from everyone. And so... But I had no idea. What was I going to do next? No idea.
Big life question, isn't it?
Big life question. So even though I love that work, the career consulting and outplacement work and change management and psychological assessments and that type of thing, I became a mum. That was my next stage in life. And I didn't want to be working as a mum. I didn't want to put my child in childcare, and I was fortunate to have the luxury of not having to do that immediately. But then I thought, what's next? And I thought, I know, I had a great idea. I'll be a school psychologist, and then my child can go to school and I can work, from 9 to 3 and pick her up and do all that. So I actually started a master's in school psychology.
Oh, okay.
I went that far with it, and I interviewed someone at a school that my daughter went to before she went there, and asked them all about their job and how to, what they helped me with the degree and everything I was going to be doing. But it wasn't until later that I found out that if you are not a teacher, you are classed as professional staff. And so I wasn't going to be doing the 9 till 3. I'd have to work as professional staff, which was general hours, not school holidays. And I thought, why am I doing this again? And so that sort of, went out the window after 6 months. And then there was a series of real finding myself, I suppose, and a lot of soul searching. I found yoga when my daughter was young, and I loved it. Absolutely lucky to have an amazing yoga teacher, and that helped me go within and learn about myself. I also read a book called The Artist's Way, which helped me understand, amazing. I read it 25 years ago, and if it wasn't for that book, I would not have become a yoga and meditation teacher back at that time. But that allowed me, yoga and meditation, to work my own hours around my then 2 children, and it was great for a long period of time. But there was a little voice saying, there's something more, there's something more. No idea what it was. until I set foot in where I work now, and it was as though I'd come home. And the owner of the centre, that first day I came in, and we knew each other through our yoga teachers, but not very well, said to me, because she's psychic, and said, one day you're going to be working upstairs I came there to be a yoga teacher, but to work upstairs as a practitioner. And I said, what? Doing what? What are you doing? Yoga? Yoga in a small room? That's ridiculous. So, but she was so adamant that that's what I'd be doing, and that set me on a path to, because I knew she was right. What am I going to do next? And through a whole lot of soul searching over quite a long period of time, a whole lot of different modalities that I did, including past life regression was a major game changer for me. I found out who I was and what was holding me back. And a few of the psychics said, well, we can't tell you what you're going to be doing next because it's you and it's something that you're inventing. So it doesn't have a name. You can't go and do a course for it. And so, it became, that sort of evolved into soul counselling. And even though that first day I thought, I didn't even know, my nature is to be very organised and follow procedures. I just knew somehow in that session, I knew it had to be 2 hours for the initial session. Saw that first client who I knew through yoga, and this is how people started to come. And from there on, it all flowed, and I just knew. I knew exactly what I was doing. I can't explain it any more than that. And it really hasn't changed all that much from that first day. Obviously, you learn more and evolve yourself, but the soul counselling is as I originally perceived it. And then about a year or so, I think, into that, I was searching, even though I was a psychologist and I knew and understood psychological tools for helping you understand yourself. And I've always been fascinated in who are we? How do we get to know ourselves? And that to me has always been a massive area of interest, and the spiritual as well. There was nothing in psychology that would go deeper into the spiritual, apart from, crappy stuff that wasn't really real, just Mickey Mouse stuff and silly quizzes and that I didn't feel were legitimate.
Right. And
through a whole series of events, I found numerology. I started to see numbers everywhere, started to do a little bit of research. Why am I seeing 1111? What does it mean? And started to just take notes of what I felt 1 meant and 2 meant and 3 meant, not knowing, having a clue, but just intuitively figuring it out. And then I read one book on numerology, and about halfway through that book, the author says, if you're still with me, so it starts to get quite complicated, there are some people that would just understand this, that would just get it. And I had this epiphany, and I thought, it's me. I know this. I know how to do this, even though I don't have a clue. I'm no mathematician, for goodness sake. It was just a feeling of, I understand this, and I know it's going to help people. And again, from that first very scarily put out, I'm going to be doing numerology readings. And I think how I first did it is on social media we put out about your house number and how your house number can have an influence on your, what goes on in that household. Had hundreds of responses, and I thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. People are interested in this. And then, started doing numerology readings. After that, that's how it all came about. But I still teach yoga, still love that, and do those 3 things now.
It's quite an array, isn't it?
It is.
But they all seem to fit nicely together.
Yes.
And learning about the mind is definitely one of my passions, which is part of these interviews and the Love Body Woman show, diving deeper into who we are and why we are the way that we are, and
those are the questions that fascinate me and always have.
Same. Definitely. I've always had a very big interest in human behaviour, and it's only probably the last 5-7 years where it's kind of where I've gone, that's why. Why am I continually staring at people and looking like I might be a stalker or something?
I used to. Back at uni, You could do these little experiments by the PhD and master students.
Yeah.
You get credit for helping them out as part of their studies. And the one I absolutely loved, and I thought I could actually do this for a living if it was a job, it was people watching. And you had to code behaviour. I remember being in the Queen Street Mall in Brisbane, coding people's behaviour as they walk by. And all this sounds bizarre, I know, but it was part of this body language study. And that led me, like I was always fascinated with body language, as a way that little cues we give off, all of that. But people watching, if that was a job,
yeah,
that's what I do.
Sign me up, I'd be right there for sure. So I saw you, gosh, probably about 2.5 years ago, and I'd always had this real strong sense of responsibility, and I just never understood why it was there. And I've thought back, where has it come from? And I kind of put it down to when my parents divorced. I was 9 years old, and it kind of felt like from that age it was just, right, I'm the responsible one. I would tidy the house, I would cook dinner when my mum went to work, so I'd be ready when she got home, and just kind of doing all those little
You're a parent.
Yeah, but it was quite overwhelming as well. And I needed to understand it more. And as I guess the universe does, I found this website for I Am Healing, which is where Emma works, and I think I spent months looking at each person. Who am I going to see? Who am I going to see? Who am I going to see?
And that's fairly typical, may I say, of your life path number.
Oh, really?
Very analytical, and go really slowly and take your time. Like, that's all of what you are.
Yeah. And then I finally settled on you. Like, just something in me is like that. That's the one.
Intuitively.
And the session that I had with you was it was mind-blowing. And we were talking just before the session officially started, and I said, I've just got this sense of responsibility. I just don't know where it's come from. You're just like, wait, we're going to get to that. Hold on.
Yes.
And yeah, you told me.
I don't like people saying to me, I don't want to know anything about you.
Yeah.
I just want to look at those numbers.
Yeah, okay.
Look at the patterning there, tune in and tell you, rather than you telling me, so I don't want to be influenced by what you're saying.
Yeah. But it was such a relief to hear that from someone else.
Yeah.
To know that that is what my soul chose in this lifetime, to be the responsible one. It's like, oh, okay. Now I know. Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on inside of us all that I think we don't understand. Like, where has this come from? There's so many parts of my personality and who I am in this lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm like, they can't be from this lifetime.
No.
Because it doesn't connect with my experiences in this lifetime. So coming to see a numerologist or doing past regression, there's a whole bunch of modalities that can help people to learn who they truly are.
Truly.
And all of those things.
Human design is another fascinating. Like, all of these things are not mutually exclusive. Like, all of them. If you have a proper astrological chart done, that's amazing. By someone that knows what they're doing, someone who's intuitive, someone who's been doing it a long time. Wow, you're going to be mind blown. And numerology is the same, and human design is the same. They're not all competing. They're all another layer. Because human beings, this is the thing that I always say, human beings are so complex. We are so complex. Yeah. And you can just look at your main, say, sun sign. Oh, I'm a Libra, or I'm a whatever. Or your main life path number, you being a 4, me being an 8. And go, but there's so much more, and that's why it's important to look at the whole chart. And get the bigger picture.
It's very layered, and that's something I've learned along the way as well. You can't just take one thing and then go, well, that's it. Yeah, because it doesn't fit with all of the other parts of yourself that you're like.
And different times of your life, there's different things that you're learning as well.
Yeah, exactly. Would you mind doing like a little session so people can see how it works?
Yes, I can do that. So, are you happy to say your date of birth out loud?
Yes, I don't mind it all.
All right. Shoot.
So it's 30th of May, 1976.
Okay. I like to use this old calculator. It's one of my children's ones from, I think, year 4. Because it's very clearly set out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ever glitch on me, whereas with the phone,
So is it not
weird things?
It's just a normal calculator?
It's just a normal calculator.
Oh, I thought it was like a numerology calculator. Is there a numerology calculator?
No. I mean, there are programs like astrological programs in human design, but because of the nuances in it, there's some things that not all numerologists agree on.
Okay.
I like to hand do it, and then I know there's no mistakes. I can have a look at it. So the 30th of May, 1976. Okay, so that makes you a life path 4. Life path 4s, as you will remember, are very responsible.
Yes,
and conscientious, and they like to get things done, but they're also Kelly, the person that we rely on. You know, I know that if you're in my work team, I can give Kelly something and she will get it done. I know that you will, whatever you promise me, I know it will be done.
Yeah,
you know, some
and
people
I'll stress until it is done.
Exactly. Some people are very flighty and, you know, oh, no, I'll get to that or whatever. You know, I know if I give it to a 4, it's going to get done. And 4s are the one, and, you know, I laugh about it here, they're always going to be on time. If they come to an appointment, I know they're going to be on time. Whereas, I won't mention what numbers, but a couple of the other numbers were, oh my God, I'm so electronic, and you know, I know they're going to be late. And I always give extra time when I know I'm reading for one of those numbers because they may not arrive exactly when they say. So anyway, back to you. So we call life path 4s the dedicated hard workers. Okay.
Yes.
And whenever I say, you know, that you can write a book on each number, quite frankly, but whenever I say the 3 or so words that quickly sum up the number, exactly what you did then, Kelly, that's what most people do. Most people do a big blink and sigh as soon as I say it, because it's like, yes, that's who I am, you know, and they relate to it. So basically, with every number, you can be, Kelly, in your higher self, high vibration, the 4. High vibe 4 is getting things done and organised and focused and commits to things and gets shit done, basically.
Yes, I like to get shit done, definitely.
Love a list. Love a list. I call 4s the spreadsheet and lists and to-do list people.
Yep.
Love it. And, you know, this is exactly what you're meant to do. You're supposed to have that to-do list or that spreadsheet. And one by one, very step by step and methodically, cross that first thing off. Great. And you'll feel, great, I've done that. But there's always another thing, Kelly, when you're a 4. There's always the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And then, exactly that, you feel the list never ends. So the challenge of the 4 is to realise that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel and not to get overwhelmed with feeling the challenges are never ending and I'm never going to get there. Because the danger, and every number can be in their lower self or just in a time of life where you feel heavy. Yeah. And a 4's lower vibration is feeling that there's another challenge and I don't know if I can do it. I'm so tired. Yeah. And then falling into pessimism, like glass half empty thinking. And so the key to your success is always going to be your mindset and realising, having hope and realising that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And part of your learnings, as you may recall from what we spoke about, is you're here to learn persistence, how to never ever give up. So there's always, you know, a few mantras.
My first life lesson, to persist through adversity.
Yes, persist through adversity and never ever give up, particularly if you have the karmic debt or karmic lesson of the 4 as well. I can't remember your chart, but you know, if you have that, then absolutely, you know, you are going to be. But what I say to people is, how would a soul who's a 4 learn to persist through adversity? Well, it's not going to be through having a cushy life where you are spoon-fed everything and, Kelly has no problem in her life. Is that how you learn? Courage and learning to... No, definitely you learn perseverance through having difficult things. So part of your life is going to be hard work, but it's not then that you have that your whole life and never ever see the light at the end of the tunnel. That is not it. Okay. Once you persist and you can cross that one off your list and go, yes, Emma, I have worked bloody hard and I have done that, then life gets joyful. Because you remember one of your lessons is to remember to have fun, because 4s are shocking, you know.
Yeah, I still haven't learned that one very well.
So We're going to have a quick look at your year, if that's okay. Do we have time to look at that?
That'd be great.
So I'm just going to do a quick calculation here. So what I'm talking about here is, everyone, all of us, humans, go through 9-year cycles right throughout our life. And once you have a numerology reading and you look at what personal year you are in currently, and it shifts around your birthday, so you haven't had your birthday yet, so you're still in the previous year, and that can get very confusing if you're just trying to do it online. They don't often tell you that nuance.
Oh, okay.
So once you understand what year you're in, there's certain activities that are fabulous to do in a certain year, and other things that if you try to keep doing it against what the energy is around the year, you're just going to find yourself not feeling very good.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that with some things, trying to get projects off the ground, or
and they never
just anything in life.
You're
just
like, why can't I get it going? So divine timing, I do believe, is a thing.
Yeah.
And numerology, that's why I love it. It can tell you about that divine timing, like the exact year that you're going to be in this cycle, and you know. So the year you're currently in and have been in since your birthday, 2024, is your 7 year of going within, doing the work. Often energy work, anything that's under mind, body, spirit will come up in a 7 year. It's my absolute favourite year of all, because it's a great year to be reading and doing a deep dive into something that interests you. But you're moving out of that now and you're coming into your 8 year. So I say to anyone that has their own business like you, your 8 year can be absolutely massive, Kelly. So hold on to your hat. This is your year to potentially get some recognition or even an award of some sort. That can be, you know, if you're working for the man, that would be maybe a pay rise or something like that, or a promotion. If you've got your own business, it might be getting out there, you know, on a platform and all of a sudden having all these followers that you didn't have the year before. Those are the sorts of things that are potentially there for you. But we all have free will, so you can listen to everything I have to say and then sit at home going, well, come on then, waiting for it to happen, and nothing's going to happen. Like you've got to meet the universe halfway.
Exactly. You have to put in the work to make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there's always a shadow with the year, so I'm gonna, if that's okay, I'll share that with you. So the shadow of the year you're coming into is to ask yourself this question: is there anything or anyone in my life that I feel takes away your personal power or makes you feel a victim, less than, or unworthy? Any of those things.
That just gave me chills, because
remember it after.
I will, definitely, because
I do quite often, but after your birthday is the year to confront or address those things. And when I say confront or address, that might be just doing it energetically. It might be someone that bullied you when you were 5 years old, and you still that person still has power over you in some way or shape or form, and you still feel victimised by it or triggered by it. The thing that you would do in your 8 year is maybe write a big letter out to that silly cow, you know, and then screw it up, and on a full moon ritual burn it and bugger you, you know, I'm taking back my power. I'm just giving an example. You know? So the person can be dead, it doesn't matter. This is your year to reclaim that personal power. But other forms of taking away one's power can be a habit, a self-belief, or a behaviour. So examples of that might be compulsive eating or something like that it's a habit or a behaviour that has power over you. Or for some people it might be having too much wine, you know, and it takes away their power and makes them feel less than, self-sabotage, that type of thing. These are the sorts of things to address and deal with in an 8 year.
That makes
no pressure.
Sense. Yeah, no.
But you've got to you're in a bit to do it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, every year there's always stuff to learn and figure out about ourselves. And
even if you don't, even if you feel in that year, you think, oh, I don't feel quite strong enough to do that, just know that you'll get another 8 year in 9 years' time, of course. You'll be again in that 8 year. Because sometimes we're too young, we're too immature. I'm not saying you, but, you know, someone who's very young, they might be able to deal with it then. And it might not be until 9 years' time that they think, oh, yes, now I'm ready in my next 8 year to do something about that. Legal stuff can come up sometimes in an 8 year as well, and as long as you have a good relationship with money in an 8 year, and you are above board and honest and in integrity in everything that you do in regards to particularly one's own business or your job, then the legal contracts, you know, anything that you're signing is going to work in your favour. If you're doing anything dodgy in an 8 year, oh my goodness me, you're going to be look out. Look out, absolutely. So I hope that makes sense.
Definitely. definitely. What to think about there.
Yeah. We're lucky you've got it on video.
Yeah.
So you can come back and
I can remember it. So as a numerologist, do you find that there really is kind of one main reason that people come to see you, or is it quite varied?
It is quite varied. The main reason that someone would be sitting in that chair there is because a friend has referred them. That is generally what happens.
Yeah.
So someone like you has a good experience and they're excited about it and they tell their friend and they think that their friend might enjoy a session like that. That's the answer to your question. But people do sit there for all sorts of reasons. But generally, it's to find out more about themselves.
Yeah.
Who am I? What's the bigger picture here? And like you said, with patterns, why am I the responsible one? Often people have something they can't quite get to the bottom of. And often people I see, both in soul counselling, particularly in soul counselling and numerology, and this isn't to blow my own trumpet, it's just they've seen a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, counsellors, and they've got to the end of the road with that. Like that, and there's amazing, mental health professionals that can help you in amazing ways, but they're looking for something deeper. So it's probably more the soul counselling that people will go, oh, that sounds like what I need, to look at the why behind the patterns, that maybe it's because of past life, who you were, past life, and an unlearned behaviour, a karmic lesson that hasn't been learned in another life. That can be the reason why in this life you're not quite there with it, or you see this repetitive behaviour or self-sabotage or whatever it might be. So I suppose it's learning more about oneself, or wanting to know the deeper reasons as to the why this is happening.
Yes. It is, as we talked about just before, there's so much that goes on inside of us that no one ever knows about. And I obviously can only talk from my own experience, but having these particular feelings that are constantly there, it can drive you mad.
Absolutely.
And there's not a lot that we are taught about ourselves on a much, much deeper level.
Not at all.
We just really only scratch the surface as a society. So, it's just a lot of people, I guess, wouldn't even think to go, why is that weird? Why is it there? Why is it?
And it's only a certain type of person that would come. And I often say to people, if you're referring someone, do not refer someone that you think, oh, this will be good for them, if they have no interest. I don't want to see them. There's no point. You honestly have to be ready. And so I'm quite careful when people say, oh, I wish my husband would come and see you. He's got blah, blah, blah. And I say, would your husband, is he open to the deeper side of life or the spiritual? And they go, oh, no. He thinks this is a load of rubbish. I don't want to see him then. There's no point in sending someone like that.
No, definitely not. Because they're not going to do anything with it. It'd just be a waste of everyone's time, really.
I do see people that maybe are on the fence. I do see a lot of people that maybe have dipped their toe in, but aren't really sure, or they just come on someone's recommendation, but they trust their friend. And the general feedback after the session is the words that you use. They'll send me a message, my mind was just blown. Oh my goodness me, particularly if they had no expectation. They came to with no expectation, not knowing what they get out of it. But it's sort of people like you and I that want to delve deeper.
It's an interesting concept for someone to, when we had our session, as I said, I genuinely thought that was a proper numerology calculator. It was some fancy, she's getting all the numbers, but it's a simple calculator.
Anyone can do it. At the end of the day, anyone can do it, but it is time consuming to learn the deeper stuff. Anyone can figure out their life path number from their date of birth. But there are nuances in certain of the numbers that if you just Google it, they're not going to tell you what those are. So if you get false information or not understanding that your second most important number in the chart may be a balance to that first number. So if you're a 4 and then you've got a 5, which is sort of the opposite of you, or a 3.
Yeah, I think I'm a 5 as well.
Yeah, then there's stuff in that with your life lessons that aren't going to apply. But if you're just doing it yourself, you're not going to see that. So you're going to read and go, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. This is a load of rubbish.
Because I remember you saying, if I didn't have 5 in my number, I'd be a stick in the mud.
Right,
Your exact words.
Yeah. So because of
So
that, you've got
balance.
the adventurer in you that wants to try something new and, all of that. And that's a beautiful balance to have. Yeah.
Like it's interesting to have such. I always feel like, and I guess maybe now I think about it, it might be because of that. Like I always feel like on both ends of the spectrum.
Yes, because you're
like
first
here and there, not a lot in between,
diametrically opposed to each other.
That makes sense now.
So some of you will be this, and some of you will be that.
Yeah,
and that's also why you felt uncomfortable about being the responsible one.
Yeah,
because. There was part of you that wanted to break free if you've got a 5 or a second most important
very
number.
much so.
And so even though part of you thought, oh, I have to do this, the other part of you would have been like this, a bit petulant about it all.
Sometimes I just want to go and day drink all day and just run amok. And
that's the 5. The excessive behaviour is the 5.
I cannot actually make myself do that because the 4 is like,
going,
no, sorry,
go.
not happening. And then I think, okay, well, I can't day drink because of this, and this. I'm too responsible. But
remember, this is what I always say to everyone, everything, that 4 and that 5, you chose it, Kelly, before you were born. The higher part of you, that soul part of you, that higher self, how we want to call it, the spiritual part, went, right, what are we going to learn? Love this time round, Oh, I'm going to have this toing and froing of the responsible one and the naughty one, going back and forth all the time. Why? Because there's some massive learning in that for you. And it's in, particularly patterns are what fascinates me, and that's why I suppose I love the numbers. That certain numbers, because people say, well, why am I always attracted to the alcoholic or whatever it is? I don't want to be with an alcoholic, but I always find myself with addicts. And you can see in the numbers very clearly where that might show. So, and then when people see it, but it doesn't mean that forevermore that woman is going to have to be with the addict. No. It means that once she understands that, she can then that's where the soul counselor comes in. She can start to make changes as to her red flags, dating someone, what am I looking out for now? And once she loves herself a bit more and gets to know herself, she can go no more.
Yeah, and that's, numerology is such a great way to be able to do that. And as you said, the patterns of what someone's life is, they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And if you don't stop to go, hang on, why is this actually happening? Psychology, of course, and different modalities in that respect can help you to figure stuff out. But sometimes there's just something else underneath that you really sense, and nobody can put a finger on it. Nobody can figure it out for you.
Yeah.
In that respect, but when you do go deeper into these spiritual modalities, where they really go into what our souls have chosen for us in this lifetime, that's when it can really all start to make sense. And that's when you can really start to learn who you truly are in this lifetime, because we've all got very, very different lives to live.
Exactly.
You might be, obviously you've got families and stuff, but you can have 5 people in a family, and people look at, everyone's so different. Because everyone's meant to be different.
Exactly. And I often say to people, you can have a family, the mum and dad are the same. One of those children becomes a nun and the other one becomes a serial killer. Now, you can't say, because basic psychology, or in the old days, it was all about, they often would blame the parents, or particularly the mother, in more older versions of psychology. But that doesn't make any sense. You've got these two with the same upbringing, yet one turns out this way and one chooses to express in a different way. What's that about? Yeah. And their numbers, their charts would obviously be completely different.
Yeah.
And that's why psychology is great, and some psychologists are incorporating the spiritual in now. For me, when I had to make that choice way back when, about leaving psychology behind, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. It took me a long time to just say, I can't abide by these rules because I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you know that there's so much more than just that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there are more and more psychologists that I believe are bringing in the spiritual, and there's more openness to it now.
Yeah.
And if you can find someone like that, fantastic. You know?
Yeah. It's very hard knowing thyself. It's such a it can be a stressful time. It can be lonely sometimes, trying to figure it all out, and nobody understands you and all of that stuff.
You're very alone. Everyone who goes through that spiritual awakening feels exactly that way.
Yeah, especially when you don't have people around you who, because they care about it, but that's not the right words, but who have no interest in it, in the same way that you do, which is why it's important to find people who do have the same interests that you can talk to in that way.
Connection,
for
sure.
Definitely.
And I do believe, I know a lot of people say this, but I truly believe it in what I've seen over many years of doing this work. There's always one in the family that is here to heal. And often it seems bizarre to people, but you, Kelly, doing your healing, me doing my healing, we help the others. We help our long, deceased grandparents, as bizarre as that can sound. Through the ancestral line far. There's always the one. And if you're drawn to this sort of work, then you are probably that one in the family. Which all those feelings and all of us, everyone that works in this centre here has felt that way, completely alone at times, like at the oddest oddball. No one understands me, everyone else is weird. Why aren't there people that think the way that I think? That's why it's important. Community is important.
Absolutely. What's your take on mindset as a psychologist and now as a numerologist and soul counsellor? The mind loves to play tricks on us. Likes to tell us stories. And in your experience, if you could sum up the mindset for people, how would you sum it up?
Well, the client just before you probably is a good example of someone could say who it is. But the mind's job is to think. But what we try to do sometimes is say, no, I don't want to think anymore. But that's what the mind's job is. And it keeps us alive, to be logical and to do all these things. So you've got to accept that, particularly if your mind is a certain way, that's its job. But I always say one has a little voice, and you need to tune into that little voice and start to really very specifically hear what it says. And is your voice nasty? Is it bitchy? And what does it actually say? I am stupid. I am ugly. I am fat. What does your mind say? And then get to the bottom of those things. Are they true? Are they actually true?
No.
Where did it come from? Maybe it was great Uncle Pete who laughed at you in your bathing suit when you were 9 years old and had a bit of a belly, or whatever it might be, and that can damage someone, a certain type of person.
And it's like the mind latches onto that. Keeps repeating the same story.
True. And I always say, what's a belief? It's just a thought we keep thinking. And then that neural pathway in the mind gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and that little 9-year-old girl, she finds things then. This is where law of attraction and understanding the spiritual laws is so important. She finds things to reinforce her belief that she is fat, or whatever it is that has come into her mind.
Did that for decades.
So, but that's the mind's job, is to look at information around it and to make conclusions. But unfortunately, the mind can latch on to not so great conclusions that aren't actually true. So it can be, that little girl, by the time she's 40, she's had how many years, to think that way. So it can take a while to start to catch herself out. And when she's looking at herself in the mirror and that little voice says, I'm fat, it's actually the 9-year-old girl, saying that. It's a bit of work.
It is a lot of work.
And sometimes it's years and years of work. And that can be off-putting, to people. But sometimes it can be just an epiphany that, oh my gosh, that's where it comes from. No, I know more.
Yeah, the mind fascinates me.
It's fascinating.
All the stuff that goes on in there. Like, I think all of our minds, if somebody actually visited in there, you wouldn't come out alive. Like, you just
Exactly.
what is going on in here? Like,
Exactly.
we've all got it. So to think that we're the only ones who are thinking these horrible thoughts about ourselves.
Not at all.
Not at
But
all.
most people never talk about it, or they
No.
don't even realise that they think it's them. So they think that that thought is them.
Exactly.
They identify so clearly with that thought, rather than thinking, oh, this is just a neural pathway that developed from what someone said, you know, or little behaviour or some conclusion that my mind came to because of X, Y, and Z. And then I kept reinforcing it over the years. It is actually not truth. And therefore, I can make a new habit, a new way of thinking. It might take me a little while, you know, but we can do it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I believed myself to be. I had all these thoughts about myself, and that was who I was.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to change, I knew I wanted to be better, but I didn't know how. But the biggest belief was that I thought I was just the way that I was.
Yes.
Until one day,
and
I remember very clearly, a voice came into my head and said, you can change anything you don't like about yourself.
Sugars.
Like, it was so clear, and I remember it distinctly.
So what do you think that voice was?
It wasn't me. It come from somewhere else, absolutely. Yeah.
Something else.
My guide, I know I have one guide named John.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was him specifically or if it was somebody else, but since that day, that's where I guess you could call it my quest began, to really understand who I was on the inside and why I was the way that I was. So listening to the woman within, learning who I truly am. And the big one is loving every single part of myself again. All of that shit and all of that good, we've got both ends of the spectrum inside of us. We've all got, you know, the darkness and the light. It just depends on the balance of it and where you're willing to go with it. But yeah, it's hard work.
Yes.
That mind thing, for sure.
It is. And when I was younger, I would always luckily had some friends who understood and were like me.
Yeah.
And so that's a great gift, you know, to have when you're young. And we would often say, why can't we just not care? Why can't we be like those people that never look at their minds, that never question, that never look deeper? Because they seem to be really happy. And I'm not happy, you know, because I want to figure stuff out. And it would annoy me
those
so
exact
much.
thoughts just
It
recently
would annoy
too.
me so much.
Yeah.
Particularly with 4 energy, because 4 is the one that really has to, like, as I said, your key to happiness is your mindset when you are 4. And getting that little voice and telling it to shut up, basically, and piss off, and then replacing it with a better thought or a better spoken word. Sometimes, you know, you can say these things out loud to ourselves, like we're driving along and we call ourselves idiots or whatever, you know, yeah, these sorts of things. So,
yeah, exactly. And yeah, for me, the mind is the most important part that I need to deal with in whatever way feels right for me. But I guess everybody's different in that way too. In what they
and I'm just going to give you a little bit of advice here, if I may, because this is coming through. Okay. So remember when we did your numerology, your final major life lesson was to have fun and to lighten up, right? So even though you just said the mind for me is the biggest, may I just suggest that actually dropping into your heart and being a little more childlike, because 4s are very responsible. So this 4 is the opposite of the child. There's another number that's more childlike, right? Yeah. Not in an insulting way, just more in energy. So for you need that balance of that wide-eyed wonder and just joyfulness, just looking up at the clouds or just splashing in the ocean and just having fun and relaxing will do you the world of good. So I could not say that.
Oh, it's nothing I haven't been told. I hear it from them all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually going to be part of the Love Body Woman show, is for me to open myself up more to that side of myself.
Yes, because 4s can be very serious.
And showing it to people and hopefully encouraging them to learn a bit more about themselves in whatever way that they need.
Perfect.
So thank you for that. Thank you so much for being on the Love Body Woman show.
Thank you.
That has been mind-opening and heart-opening and eye-opening, and just there's so many ways to learn about who you truly are. And
there's no one way,
go with your inspiration. I wanted to show Emma and numerology because it worked for me. It was really powerful in helping me to learn so much about myself and those parts of me that I just could not understand. And there's still more.
There's always more.
Exactly. Not one person is going to tell you absolutely everything.
Otherwise, we'll all be, if we all knew everything straight away, we'll all be Jesus and Buddha.
Yeah, you just end. Exactly. So it's, as I said, it's just one of those ways to learn about who you truly are. Follow your own guidance, follow your own intuition in the many different ways that you can do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And also I just want to honour you to be, so proud of yourself for doing your show, for following that dream. It's amazing.
Yes. Again, the guides told me about 6 months ago, you need to stop doing the other podcast and you're going to do the Love Body Woman show. And I was like, oh, thanks very much.
Yes.
Well, that's so much bigger than, like, what are you doing to me? Why are you making me go big? But it felt right.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed to do it, and I knew, what it was meant to be.
And that's you getting out of the mind and just following that higher voice. And that's why having a relationship with your guides or higher self, however you want to describe it, is life-changing. Yeah.
Absolutely. It really is. So thank you.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate everything that you have said today.
And I appreciate you.
The end. Ask me again to ask you.
Kelly, is there anything else you would like to ask me?